What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we're going to be covering some really wicked news. So shout out to Solaris, who is currently the main data miner for One Piece Treasure Cruise, along with some other individuals such as Goldie. So shout out to Goldie in the One Piece Treasure Cruise subreddit Discord. These people have been coming together to data mine the game to crazy extents that we, or at least I, never knew possible. So we have some icons, and we actually have the unit details for all of these new units already, which is crazy. The data download hasn't even hit yet, so this is why you got to stay tuned to the YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to Solaris down below in the description of the video. He goes crazy, done a lot of work for the community here. These are the new icons. We have a brand new Perona Super Evolution. This is the free-to-play Kizuna Clash character, okay? We have a brand new Super Evolution skull for Nami and Robin. We knew this was the case. They are going to be the new Super Evolution character coming to the game. But we've got another batch of characters here. We've got a Hiyori, Bao Huang with her first release in One Piece Treasure Cruise. And then we have Moda, which is a character that also has never received a character in the game yet either. So this is all very exciting stuff. Let's go ahead and get into the information. So we're over here on the database, and here we have the first character, which is Hiyori. Hiyori is a Kizuna rare recruit, so she's going to be a summonable character for the upcoming Kizuna Clash. Do note that the next Kizuna Clash is going to be a Super Boss Kizuna, which is exciting, always a lot of fun. So we have Hiyori, who is a Dex slasher cerebral, and her captain ability doesn't really matter that much. She probably has a buffed captain ability in this event anyway. One of her crewmate abilities is going to make Dex matching for cerebral, and then it says that if she has a Wano slot and she hits a perfect, she keeps it for the next turn. That's actually really good, especially when you look at her special, which heals your crew by 20 times her recovery. Not a very good recovery bonus, but then if the character has a Wano slot when you launch the special, it reduces bind, paralysis, and attack down by 6 turns. That's incredible, really good utility. But then furthermore, if her slot is one of the type slots, recovery or tandem, or rainbow slot when you launch the special, then it reduces those debuffs by 5 turns instead. So at a bare minimum, 5-turn removal of bind, paralysis, attack down is pretty good. But then if you have a Wano slot, you get the 6-turn removal instead, which is very nice. And remember as well that this is a slasher unit. It's a slasher unit that has a special that can remove bind, so you could put Whitey Bay support on her to remove an additional 2 turns of bind and despair, which is pretty solid. Unfortunately, no support effect, which is a little unfortunate. She has slot bind resistance and pinch healing, and of course no rumble stuff, but still a pretty okay Kizuna rare recruit, I would say. The next Kizuna rare recruit is Bao Huang. As we said, this is the first Bao Huang unit in the game. So she is an int cerebral driven, and captain ability, as we said, doesn't really make that much of a difference, but it does change int slots into Wano slots. So that is kind of fascinating for a unit such as this. Now, her crewmate ability, resisting special reverse by 3, is very good, and int slots are beneficial to cerebral. So looking at her special, reduces damage nullification by 2 turns, reduces cerebral cooldowns by 2 turns, also very good, changes block and type slots into int, and if you're using her as a captain, you basically get a full board of Wano slots. Is incredible. If this character slot is Wano when you launch the special, it delays all enemies by 1 turn and gives your cerebral characters a 1250 base attack boost for 2 turns. It's whatever. But then if you have one of the other slots or rainbow, when you launch the special, you just get the 1000 base attack boost for 2 turns. So look, the second half of the special is just kind of whatever, a little bit of bonus stuff. The first half of the special is the real good stuff. Removing damage nullification by 2 is extremely rare. Hardly any characters remove damage nullification in the first place, and then there's an even smaller number of that remove it by 2 turns, so very rare. As well as resisting 2 turns of special reverse is also extremely strong, and then being able to change slots into int, including block and type slots. It's just a good special, just a solid unit. Unfortunately, no good support. And then for her potential abilities, recovery bind and limit special use resistance. So I expect this to probably play a part in one of the bosses post level 30, most likely. So that's Bao Huang, very fascinating character as a Kizuna rare recruit. So now the next character is going to be Moda. So Moda, a lot of people don't even know who this character was. This was during the episode where the Revolutionary Army commanders were introduced for the first time, fighting off Peachbeard, saving this island, and she he is an interesting character. He doesn't really see much play, obviously, not much play in the story, of course, but still interesting that this unit is coming out. Now, this unit actually is a support rare recruit, and this is going to be what you want to have against the super boss, as it will likely help you in some cases. So she is a Dex Cerebral Free Spirit, and remember, this is a support unit, so these effects don't really matter. We're just looking at the support attaching to any Dex Cerebral unit, so actually a pretty wide array. But once per quest, if you use a damage dealing or a health cut special, -1 paralysis and a 10% cerebral resistance. So it has to be a Dex Cerebral that is a damage dealing special. So you know, it does narrow the pool a little bit, but still, like, this support is just okay in my eyes. Like, I don't see this being super relevant. It just reminds me a lot of when that Queen support came out for a super boss Kizuna, where it like removes 1 turn of bind and does like a 10% resistance. It's very similar to that. So this is a very replaceable support. So personally, I actually don't think I'm even going to be pulling for this one. I think this is actually a support that you don't really need. Yes, it is useful. It will come up in certain circumstances. An additional 10% bonus damage is very nice, and I assume there's going to be resistance buffs on the enemy during the super boss. But still, this is just a support you don't need to pull for. You could potentially just do the discount and be okay with that, but it's not one worth chasing like 10 multis for, you know what I mean? Before we talk about the super evolution of Nami and Robin, I want to talk about the Kizuna Clash character. So this is actually the super evolved version. There is obviously going to be the base version of Perona. Very cool artwork, I must admit. But this is the fully evolved form of the character. Great artwork. And she is an int-driven cerebral. So actually a pretty cool combo. Captain ability for a free-to-play unit is actually very good. -1 cooldown, driven cerebral 4.5 attack with a matching slot 4 times otherwise, 1.2 health, and heal 0.5 her recovery for every perfect that you hit. So it's not a good utility captain in any sense, but in terms of raw damage for a free-to-play unit is actually pretty solid. Her crewmate abilities are pretty good too, reducing special bind by 1 for the whole team, incredible, and strength slots are beneficial to the whole team. Not too many characters can make strength beneficial for your team, so this is again a very unique crewmate for your team. And then looking at her special, it is very good, reducing bind, attack down, and burn by 5 turns, and then you get a 2.25 times color affinity for driven cerebral for 1 turn. Furthermore, there are lots of additional effects here. If you have a color affinity boost when you launch the special already, then it gives your cerebral and driven a 2.25 times attack boost for 1 turn, and if you land 3 perfects, you get a 2.5 attack boost in the turn after that. So that's pretty dope. You know, a unit that can, it's like a reduced redundancy effect. You get a huge color affinity boost. If you've already got one, you get an attack boost instead, and you get another attack boost in the following turn. Just really, really good stuff. But then furthermore, if you have a threshold damage reduction when you launch the special, you heal 30% of your health. If you don't have a threshold damage reduction when you launch the special, then she gives you a threshold damage reduction for 1 turn. Now this unit would have been just another level if she had double special launch. Unfortunately, she does not. She has slotbind resistance, she has pinch healing, and she has the hunger resistance. If she had double special, oh my god, this unit would be absolutely bonkers. Unfortunately, that is not the case. But still, with the crewmate abilities in mind, with the special in mind, this is actually a very solid free-to-play unit. You have a look at her support as well, attaching to Mihawk or Moria, and if you use an orb boosting special, you heal 5% of the max HP. I mean, it's fine. I don't see this being too relevant, but it is what it is. And we've already talked about her potential abilities there. So I think Perona, a pretty good free-to-play Kizuna character to look forward to. Good thing about Perona as well is that she gets access to that Kuma support to remove 5 turns of despair. So with that support attached to this unit, removing 5 turns of bind, attack down, burn, and despair, pretty good stuff. And now we get to the main event, which is the 6+ of Nami and Robin, what everyone has been waiting to hear. So I already made a video talking about what I hoped to see for her super evolution a couple of days ago, and I mean, I got quite a few things wrong, so we'll go through it. Interesting thing about Nami and Robin is that with Nami's form, she doesn't change classes. I felt that was actually a little strange. So Nami's still Free Spirit Striker, Robin Free Spirit Cerebral, and then Free Spirit Cerebral once again in the dual form. The colors also don't change. Nami Dex, Robin Int, so no real changes, no surprises. But of course, we've got lots of different effects based on how invested your character is. So we'll just go from the lowest and we'll go all the way to the highest. So this is the normal captain ability you get with level limit break 0, and just a pure evolution. That's it. This character also does not receive a buffed captain from Limit Break expansion, so you don't need to worry about that. But the base captain, you get Dex, Int, and Cerebral 4.5 attack. So I got that right, and most people would have got that right. Instead of just boosting colors, she boosts classes and colors now, which makes sense. 4.5 times attack. And of course, this is the Nami captain, of course, and then approximately 5.5 when you have an empty slot, and then HP recovery 1.3, Dex in tandem matching, which is cool, and then sets all slots to Wano. That's crazy. That I don't actually remember reading that at all. Sets all slots to Wano at the start of the quest. That's incredible. That is so strong, and that's actually crazy because I read this character on stream and I must have completely overlooked that. That is actually insane that they can do that. And then of course you got Robin, which is very slightly different, but in their dual form, which is the most important part, Dex in Cerebral 5 times 5.25 if you got a Dex in Tandem or Wano slot, 6.25 times attack with an empty slot, HP recovery 1.3, those slots are matching, and 20% damage reduction. But the big thing here is in their dual form with max level Limit Break, you get -1 cooldown, Dex in Cerebral 5 times attack, 5.5 if you've got one of those other slots, but a 6.75 times attack boost if you have an empty slot. Like, that actually blows my mind. You know, we already have these crazy like 5.75 captains. We've got Luffy, Yamato, which can reach a 6 times multiplier, and we already know those characters do a lot of freaking damage. And now we have this character that can reach a 6.75. Now, yes, it does require empty slots. And I will spoil it, there is no effect in this kit that makes empty slots matching. We already know Corazon and Law is another character you may want to have if you want to abuse this unit. And I really want to trial this unit out. 6.75 times captain sounds absolutely absurd. Like, this is mind-boggling how good this is. And it just opens the door for crazy things in the future. But 6.75 is nothing to scoff at. This has a lot of implications moving forward. If people can find ways to abuse this unit could be crazy. We'll have to wait and see though. And of course, you know, in their normal captains as well, you know, obviously just higher multipliers, the cooldown reduction is still valid, but then the full board of Wano slots at the start of the quest, I completely overlooked that. That is just an amazing touch to this unit. As for their crewmate abilities, reducing paralysis by 1, obviously still really, really good. But now we can have a look at their switch effect. So the switch effect, it's the same thing. The base swap has not changed. However, the super swap, which does only require 3 switches, now states that it locks the crew's slots for 1 turn and then does the same thing. So that's really cool. And the fact that you get these Wano slots and you're able to somehow lock them, and then you could like generate these Wano slots back and then lock them. Like, there's just some crazy shenanigans that you can do with this unit. And obviously, them being Cerebral, you can have, you know, Perispero to lock slots. So you could have like a Hiyori on your team, lock slots with that as well. Like, there's some cool stuff going on with this unit. Like the fact that you can generate these Wano slots so easily, right? Obviously, you know, it makes it a bit harder to abuse the 6.75 times empty slot thing if you are so focused on Wano as well. But I actually kind of like what they've done here. You know, generating these Wano slots is just a really, really nice touch. Really good stuff. The special ability is slightly different as well. So the special reduces HP of all enemies by 20%, reduces slot bind and paralysis by 10 turns. So that's a new touch. Changes block into matching, which is kind of cool. Nothing really special there. Boost Dex, Int, and Cerebral orbs by 2.5 for 2 turns. If you already have an orb boost, you get an attack boost for 2 turns instead. So the special didn't really get that much change, which is unfortunate, but there wasn't really a lot they could do. Like, they couldn't really do much with it. I did like the fact they added an additional debuff removal by 10 turns, and I did kind of predict they would add something here. I said bind, but slot bind is fine, I suppose. It could be worse, could definitely be better. Slot bind is a bit of a weird one though. And of course no support, but unfortunately the rumble stuff for this unit is unable to be found right now, so we have to wait for the data download to see all of that, of course. But still, nonetheless, a very interesting super evolution, very high multipliers, and I'm very excited to get my hands on this unit, give them a try, and see what we can do, because that 6.75 multiplier seems crazy, and I think this unit's going to see even more play as a crewmate now, due to the fact that swap is going to be buffed with the locking of slots. and also because their special is just straight up better now, like reduced redundancy, boosting cerebral now, not just the 2 colors. It seems like a very good unit, and Nami Robin get access to some solid supports too. So there's lots to look forward to here, of course. So once again, shout out to Solaris for putting all of this information forward to us here. Really appreciate all the hard work that he's been putting in for the community. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video today. If you guys did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.